Hi, I'm Adam Cole with Down to Earth's Garden to Table series. Today we're back with an update on our planting of tomatoes from seeds. So normally it takes around a week for seeds to germinate, but under relatively ideal conditions, sometimes it can happen more quickly. We're now 5 days in from the time we seeded the tomatoes, and if you take a look, we'll remove this hood here. Sometimes you have to kick off a little bit of the water, but this is still pretty dry. These have popped. They popped over the weekend. This is why it's really good to keep an eye on them, be able to see them every day. When we left on Friday, there was not a single germinated seed, and today, many of them are up, and they've almost gotten a little excessively leggy at this point. But at this point, we're going to take them, move them, put them under light so that they can start to grow. We want to remove this entirely because it's keeping it excessively moist, which is just for germination. After that fact, we want it to dry out quite a bit more. So we'll take this downstairs, put it under light, attach a fan to it, and let it grow. We're not going to fertilize yet. If we need to add water, we just add plain water, either through misting the top or through bottom watering, removing one of these tray packs and watering into here. Then after about a half hour, emptying off all the excess. We'll start fertilizing once we see true leaves. Now right now, all we've got in here are what's called cotyledons. Tomatoes and most vegetables are what are called dicotyledonous, and that means that they have two first leaves when they come out of their seed. Once we get another set of leaves on these, and we see that pretty much across the board, we'll start fertilizing, and they'll start to grow more rapidly at that point. When we add the fan, it's just going to be there for two reasons. One is to give airflow and keep the cells from being excessively moist. At that point you might get fungal problems, so it'll help keep that from occurring. The other reason is that they've actually found that when plants move back and forth, they actually put on size more quickly. So you get a stronger, bigger plant if you have air movement. It is really important if you're using a small fan to use a oscillating fan so it's moving back and forth, because just blowing one way won't have that effect, but the movement back and forth will increase the size of the plant and also increase root development considerably. If you remember back to last week, I said that we should always put at least 2 seeds in every cell. And when you end up with slightly leggy plants like this, it's really nice to have those extra ones that haven't germinated yet. They'll come on a little later, and if you get your light on top there, they'll be able to grow from the very beginning. Now, I don't think these are too leggy. They'll probably be just fine, but if they are, it's nice to have another one coming up in its stead. One other thing we're going to do is remove it from the heat map. It's no longer necessary. So long as your indoor area where you're going to be growing these is moderately warm, you won't need to heat the soil from below. Tomatoes for germination needs 70 to 90 degree soil temperature, but for growth, it doesn't need to be that warm. If your house is in the 60s, low 70s, you'll be fine just growing these. As far as light sources go, you have a couple options. One is you can put it in a sunny window, and that works just fine. I found that some of my plants do tend to get a little leggier, a little more stretched out in the window, but that really depends on the quality of the light coming through the window. Another option is a grow lamp made specifically for plants, and they have great usable light. They need to be put relatively close to the plant. I'd say no more than, well, depending on the quality of the lamp, for most vegetable gardeners, no more than 6 inches away from the plant, but if it's a really hot light, you'll need to do a little higher. I often use a shop light, just a fluorescent shop light. Cool thing about those is they're very cool light. The quality of the light is not great, but you're able to put it literally right on top of the plants. They can grow up into the light without any damage because they're so cool, and you just move it up. However, once your plants get tall, you have to start moving your light up, and the bottom of the plant stops getting usable light. So there are some light quality issues there, but for just getting started, either a grow light, which is what we'll put it under today, or a shop light works just fine. Okay, so we've got the tomatoes down under a light now. This is a nice compact fluorescent light, which is puts out a nice amount of usable light, but it is not necessary. You can work with a hardware store shop light just fine. You just have that hardware store shop light a little bit lower. The plants can even contact it. It won't be a problem. In this case, there is a little bit of heat being created by this light, so I've raised it just a little bit higher above. That also lets the light spread out and get the whole tray that way. We have an oscillating fan here. This one is maybe a little bit overkill in this circumstance. We might downgrade to a slightly smaller one shortly, but it is causing motion of the plants, sort of a back and forth, which will help them develop stronger tissue. It also is going to let this dry out a little bit more quickly, so it won't get soggy. If you do come to the point where it starts to dry out along the top, you can always use your spray bottle and just mist it a little bit. If they start to dry out too much and even start to pull away slightly from the side of the pot, that's when you take one of these up and then bottom water again, let it saturate, and then empty. And just put it back under the light. The light should really only be on these for about 12 hours a day. They do need a nighttime. Some people think that if a little bit of light is good, then a lot is better. And that's really not true. You want it to have a day and a night period where it gets to rest, I guess, for lack of a better term. This is on a timer, so it's 12 on, 12 off, but you could also turn it on when you go to work and turn it off when you go to bed at night, and that would be fine as well. Other than that, this is going to hold us for probably the next week until they start to get true leaves. We'll check back in when they do, and at that point we'll start to fertilize. But again, thank you very much for watching Down to Earth's Garden to Table series. If you like this series, make sure to like us on Facebook and YouTube.